Yeah, hi everyone, Hirsch Saha here. Today is the 3rd of March 2024, and I'm reporting from Auckland, New Zealand, as usual. And bit of an interesting question, certainly one that applies to many of us, or that we can definitely relate to. Yeah, what would you do, or what would you change about secondary school education if you could, or if you had the power? And it's certainly one that I spent a lot of time dwelling on, especially when I was in secondary school and afterwards in university. I went to secondary school. This is probably now sounding like ancient history and I guess showing my age, but I went to secondary school from 1998 to 2001, back then known as third form to sixth form, or basically, if you like, year 9 to year 12, what it's now known here in New Zealand. And that was a secondary school, a private secondary school in Wellington, the country's capital. Then I went to university immediately following that from 2002 in the same city, Wellington. That was from 2002 to 2006. But if I had the power, what would I change about secondary school education? And I guess some of these principles, keep in mind, could even be used for university education. But what would I change? Well, to be honest, there's probably quite a few things I would change based on my experience of it back in those days and just what I've seen and heard since. Um, I've, Without a doubt, this would cost money, but I guess virtually every single thing does. I guess without so much of damn bureaucracy and red tape and people clipping the ticket here, there, everywhere. It could be done a bit more efficiently. And, just, sort of clever cost cutting incentives again would help. But yeah, getting to the deal, if what would I change about secondary school education if I could have had the power, even if it did cost a bit of extra money? Again, keep in mind some of these things could be applied to even university education. Well, what I do, I try to make things just a bit more, to be honest, fun and less daunting. I know some people might even laugh at this, but they say the absolute best way to teach is actually, believe it or not, the Montessori style. Make learning fun. Don't make it stressful. Use more color, keep it relaxed. Don't just start the day handing out, piles and piles of, readings or textbooks or material that students just feel they have to absorb and memorize when they've already got such a busy day ahead of them, when they're probably thinking, oh, what else do I have to do today? Or what do I have to do tonight? What's due tomorrow, etc., etc. And, and just everything else that surrounds us in life, the rising costs of living, all the negative things that we continually face, how it seems in general, just pretty much everything is just getting worse and worse and worse. So, I would honestly say make learning fun, teaching the Montessori style, remove, uh, remove the stress from it that you have to do this, you have to do that, you have to know this, you have to know that. Remove that stress for as much as you can. As they say in the cone of learning, learning through reading and writing, especially if it's something you're not interested in, is actually one of the worst ways to learn, and you only absorb about 10% of what you read. Again, I would say that is definitely when you're not so interested in it. If you are interested in it, you would absorb it all on even just on one reading, obviously. It's like when someone tells you a joke and the joke can actually be quite long and complicated, but when the joke is so funny, so interesting, you actually remember it pretty much word for word on just one hearing, don't you? It really makes you think. Or when you can, recite lines from a scene of your favorite movie, lines which could be a lot, which you wouldn't be able to memorize, otherwise. And again, just from one viewing. So yes, what I would change about secondary school education in particular, make learning fun, teaching a more Montessori style. I remember actually learning back in university education how teaching by stories is actually a very good way to do it because it's much easier to learn. Again, sort of going back on what I was saying, like when it's a really funny joke, even if it's a long and complicated joke, you remember it on just one hearing, or like a really good scene in a movie. So, teach by stories. And I actually remember learning that in a management paper back in 2004. Oh, geez, 20 years ago. And I think it was Prudential University in the US. From reading that article in that management paper, was saying that they were looking to do that, teach through stories. So I thought that was very good. So yeah, Montessori style, make it fun, take away the stresses, teach by stories. I would also go further to say things like, say, in exams, I don't really agree with sort of having exams based on essays because they're just so physically hard to write. in an exam situation. And, a proper essay, a proper essay is the result of, about 2 or 3 drafts and a lot of fine tuning, isn't it? And of course, you just don't have time to do that in an exam. So I wouldn't really put essays in an exam. I would make it so it involves sort of more thinking and less writing. Something like, I guess, multi-choice could help. And I actually think a lot of students would prefer that if they could choose a multi-choice or essays, and or even just a mixture. I would say multi-choice and short answer questions that only require, a few sentences or maybe a paragraph as an answer. I would say that's probably pretty good. Multi-choice and those short answer questions. And in fact, you could actually assess or examine more than if you just put an exam with a few essays. I certainly think so. So that's how I do what I do for exams and tests. And I think just that alone would make things much easier, even despite the amount of material that students have to absorb beforehand. Um, like what's been discussed quite recently, especially in New Zealand, and I would pay teachers more really what they're worth, because it's just amazing how overworked and underpaid they are. I'll make sure their class sizes are, quite suitable. Probably no more than, say, 25 students to a teacher, I would say. That would be pretty good. And yes, make sure that, teachers are paid their actual worth, and they're not so, just they just don't have so many extra duties dumped upon them as you see in a lot of schools. A lot of teachers also have other things, like one teacher could be the photographer for the school, another teacher organizes, say, lost property, another teacher organizes this extracurricular activity, and so on. So I would do that as well. And one thing that I really wanted to mention was, to be completely honest, some subjects which really don't seem like they help a lot. I would say English definitely helps. Science, yes. And then students can choose other subjects. But mathematics, to be completely honest, I know it has a lot of respect going for it. But after, say, year 8, year 9, especially when it turns into basically just, calculus and statistics, I don't really think it's that relevant. I'm not saying that those subjects or those topics have no use. Of course they do. But really, they're not for everyone. I would honestly, especially, geez, when I look at how much time I thought I wasted back in secondary school being taught just, endless, calculus and statistics, things like that, and thinking, Jesus, and all that algebra, and thinking, Jesus Christ, where the hell am I going to use this? And then after coming out of school and recently realizing how poor my social skills were, and just all the life lessons I learned the hard way through making mistakes again and again and again, I would honestly, after, say, year 8 or year 9, take out mathematics, especially when it becomes just pretty much calculus, statistics, and algebra, and I would replace with another subject basically called basic life skills, and things that are really relevant, things like budgeting, taking care of yourself. It could include a mixture of those things, home economics, relationship skills and sex, things like even social etiquette, uh, applying for a job, trying to get a job, things that, that are actually relevant that we all have to apply, traveling, avoiding scams, being safe online, just all those real life skills that you really do wish you learned at school but didn't. Basic saving of money and investing, investing spare money or your savings. Yeah, just again, things that are actually relevant that we all need and that are very important. And so I'm just trying to have a look at the list I made here. Yeah, basic economics, current events, news, basic world history, travel. I think I might have mentioned that. Health and life hacks, basic philosophy, shopping on and offline, even starting and running a business, investing in things like shares, commodities, property, basic laws, childcare. All those things. That's what I would actually replace maths with. So, of course, this would cost money, and of course, it would be a pretty big revolution. But I think certainly in the long term, it would be well worth it. And don't forget our children, our teenagers, our adults of tomorrow, so I think it would be well worth it. But yeah, that's what I would do. So I guess in summary, pay teachers what they're actually worth and make it so they don't have class sizes that are not too big, make it so they don't have so many extra commitments on top of the teaching, which is hard enough and not very well paid. Make the learning for students fun, the Montessori style, teaching them through stories, not putting so much of stress on them, with exams and tests, make it so it's more multi-choice and short answer questions, not essays that make, that are very hard to complete in an exam. And again, taking out a subject like mathematics, with calculus, statistics, and algebra, especially what it becomes after sort of, year 8 and year 9, I'd honestly take that out altogether, as drastic as that seems. I'd take it out altogether and replace it with, a subject with many very basic life skills that we all need, that we could all do with learning at school, which unfortunately we don't, and which we pretty much end up learning the hard way once we leave school. Yeah, so if I could do anything about secondary school education, that is what I'd do if I was given the chance. I'm not sure if that'll ever happen, but let's just hope one day something like that, even if just remotely resembling that, does happen. Because think about how good it'll be for the future of our children. Thank you.